I am Rocky Chevalier with Crooksville News. I'm sitting here with the fire chief. I'll let him say a few things about himself, and we're going to have a conversation. And I know very little about what we're talking about, but I have basic idea. So a lot of my questions are just off the cuff, genuine curiosity.
Good.
Nothing really prepared.
All right.
So,
my name is Darrell Wallace. I've been the fire chief now for a year here with Crooksville. Glad to have this opportunity. I work full-time also for City of Lancaster Fire Department for about 20 years, plus years. I've done anything from being a medic for a number of years to be the fire investigator, the fire inspector, being the engineer. Now for also about the last year and a half, I've been a lieutenant at the city. So this is my life.
and how long have you been here?
I've been here for just over a year.
Just over a year.
I came in from the outside when I was appointed.
Okay. All right.
So.
Go ahead and give us some introductory about what we're talking about.
Doing a lot of learning over the last year about Crooksville and a lot of our background. Again, my wife is from Perry County, so she gave me a lot of details of the past, but you know, that's something that I have to learn for myself as well. We're at a point where we're looking to put levies out there. In learning about our financial situation, I've learned that our levies are 30 years old, in which case we've got a depreciation value on them over time. As land value goes up, we're getting less and less. When a levy is initiated, the levy, as long as it is renewed, stays at those land values of when it was initiated.
Okay.
Instead of, if you replace a tax levy, then it goes on the current date's land values.
Oh, I see.
So because of that, I have been in contact with the auditor's office, and these are all charts that Rocky can put up on here. But
Okay.
you can see on those, in the first column on here, this is our dates in which the tax levy was initiated. And in the second column, you can see the millage. Now, when you hear about the millage on how much value is a mill, across the board for the state, typically it is $35 for $100,000 of house value.
Okay.
If you have a house that is worth $200,000, at a 1 mil levy that's brand new, you would be paying $70 a year for that 1 mil levy.
And that's current rates.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's $35 per $100,000 value.
All right.
So that kind of gives you a little bit of knowledge on what it is
mill
to
is.
figure it out.
Okay.
Right. So as you can tell, back in some of those were 1985. We'll
Yeah.
say, we'll just throw that date out to it. The land values of that time, my house might have been $75,000. Without any kind of updates, hypothetically to this date, now it's actually valued in today's market at $270,000. So that's where we get our shortfall, because these levies are based off of the original date's time frame taxes.
Okay. So that's the cost, right, that you're talking about, that you're proposing or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So what's that pay for?
The pay for it comes in through the county auditor's office. It goes into our EMS and our fire budget. It's paid to the village. They have it broken down just like you see on the paper here. These tax levies say that they're for fire or for EMS, and then with whatever your millage is. Let me come back to that, and we'll hit that in just a sec. But
Okay.
if you look on the top of this paper, you will see where it says township renewal, and the next column is township replacement.
Right.
As it renews through the years, that's what we're getting currently.
Okay.
If we were to replace it, it would be that second column there, that next column.
Right.
So you can see the values are considerably different.
Oh yeah.
Okay. To understand this form, and the auditor's office started preparing this for me, and I just kind of built onto it. If you see Bearfield Township, we get 100% of their tax levy.
Okay.
If you see Harrison Township on there, we get 71%. The other 29% would go to Roseville. because both departments service Harrison Township.
Yeah, okay.
So, and that's why you see the different percentages. Same thing with Clayton Township. I get 24% of their taxes on fire and EMS, and that's because the remainder of it goes to a combination of New Lex and Somerset for their
because
coverage.
it's a shared area that you guys would service.
Correct. And that's
Okay.
that's all done by contract with the townships in general. All right. So that's kind of how to read that form. Sorry. Coming past that in the last couple columns, you can see over here, this is where we're actually getting what this is on the renewal versus a replacement
Okay.
in the last two columns here. So at Bearfield Township, you see the columns are still the same. But in Clayton Township, if we were to update this $500,000 levy for EMS, I would go from getting the $3,200 to the $6,200
Right.
per year
Right.
for just that levy. So now down at the bottom, you can see.
I mean, it looks like a big jump because you're almost doubling your money, but at
Correct.
the same time, you're talking over a span of 40 years. This thing ain't been updated, right?
well,
am I
this-
reading that right? Because 1984.
These are 1984, 1994, 1976 taxes, yes.
Okay, so that would help
That's-
explain why
Why we have such a
it's a
financial.
right. Because you're operating on based off 1984 money when it comes to Clayton Township specifically.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Right. So
Right.
your next question was, what does that pay for? They've got it separated out. Here's another form. This is all statistics that I've come up with, and Rocky can post this on the internet as well.
Let
But-
me get a photo up so I can put it on the video.
Okay. So a lot of the things that we pay for, we have to pay for some of our EMS supplies that the hospital doesn't replace.
Okay. Did you want to review that? Okay.
Okay. So let me start with the wage portion of it, because that's our biggest cost.
Okay.
Our EMS wages currently at today's pay scale, it takes me $201,000 to put 2 people in that truck as basic EMTs,
Okay.
365 days a year, 24 hours. Okay? Now I also tell you that they are $5 an hour less than anybody else around.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of talk out there about us not having a crew all the time. If we're paying $11.50 an hour, and they're paying $13.50 an hour at Burger King,
Right.
and they're paying $16.50 an hour at New Lex, where would you work?
Yeah. Well, not here. Yeah.
So I will say that the people that are here right now are here because they want to be here. They want to be here for this community.
Right.
And it's the same with myself. I commend them and I thank them for putting in the time that they do. But in reality, if I can't get more money for their wages to bring them to a competitive wage, I can't get people to keep coming in the door
Right.
to work for us.
So that's really one of your large challenges.
That
is
is
the
the
income allows you to have like a, I don't know if this is the right term, or like a full service, or
Right.
a continuing of what you currently have, or whatever.
Right. Historically, you guys have paid for, prior to me, you guys paid for 2 EMTs to be in those trucks.
Okay.
They're not firefighters.
Right.
They're EMTs. Now, that being said, I've got a large vision where I would love to bring them up to current pay scale with everybody else, competitive wage. But then I also want to go further. I want to try to be able to get an additional 2 people to make 4 per day that I want to be dual carded. I still want my straight EMTs. I still need them.
Explain a little bit what dual carded means.
Dual carded meaning being a firefighter as well. So not only do they have the responsibilities of being the EMT, but they have the responsibilities of being a firefighter, which means they go out on the big trucks if that alarm comes. Now let's say we have an auto accident. As it is right now, I send these 2 EMTs out on this ambulance, and we don't know exactly when we're going to get a rescue truck there. So if this is something that is critical, if this is somebody that's pinned in a vehicle, then we may have to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Our fireside currently is volunteer. I have to wait for them to come from home if they're available. to get on a truck, and it is typically about 10 minutes before they're out the door.
It's good that you say that because that shows the public cost of having
Yes.
dependent on a volunteer.
Correct.
And not to say anything negative about volunteers.
No.
They're wonderful people for doing what they do for no cost. But that's the cost of having that and
Right.
not having it, but having to depend on that.
Even if I get the availability of putting a total of 4 people in this engine house 24/7 at a competitive pay scale and stuff, I'm still going to need my volunteers.
Oh, yeah.
Because the first 2 that are fire carded are going to go out and they're going to start an operation, whether it is to start doing an extrication on a vehicle to get somebody critically injured out. Understanding that fire doubles in size every 5 minutes. Your kitchen is on fire. Right now when you're calling, it's probably not all that huge. Your stove is on fire, you're starting to get into the cabinet above it, and things like that. But if it takes me 10 minutes to get them out the door, and another 5 minutes down the road to your house,
Yeah.
that fire has now spread into the living room
Right.
and further areas of the house. By having 2 people that can go out the door right now, cuts down on fire damage. Your personal loss can cut down on your insurance. What you're paying for homeowners insurance is affected by whether I have 2 people staffed in this station or not.
Yeah. And most importantly, if someone's trapped in the house
The life
because they
safety.
sleep upstairs or whatever,
Correct.
yeah, those minutes,
Minutes count
yeah,
hugely.
okay,
So this is, and I know I'm not going to be able to start that right off the bat. It's going to take me time to get to that point.
But this is why we're here, so we as
Right.
the public can kind of plan ahead and
Right.
vote accordingly if we feel a certain way.
Correct. I would like to think I would know how they'd vote.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I live
Yeah.
in Harrison Township. I'm affecting my own taxes,
Yeah.
so I'm going to pay the increase as well because I want people to be there.
And again, the increase you're talking about is what was it? Then it's going to go to $35 for every 100,000.
No, it's currently at 35.
Okay.
But you got to figure, in the dates of these times, mid 80s to mid 90s.
Yeah.
What did your house cost
Back then,
back then?
well, I bought it in like 01,
Okay,
02, so it was 52,000,
so it's 52,000.
and today it's 103.
Okay, so
So that's
you're
20
still
years.
paying on.
So if you go 20 years back again, my
Right.
house is probably 25 or maybe
Right.
even less.
So realistically, for a 1 mil levy, you may be paying $20.
And if it was updated, it'd be closer to probably like 80 or whatever it would be.
If it was update, you said it was 103 now.
Yeah.
Okay, you would be paying $36, $37.
So
So it's
barely
$35.
doubling the cost over a 40-year span.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, that provides money here to,
To buy equipment. To, number one, pay the people. And it's kind of the deal where I've got to have money to start paying them a competitive wage to be able to staff more people to provide more service.
right.
Now, one of the sides we haven't said yet, what we haven't talked about yet, is the insurance income. For EMS runs, at a basic run, I get $650 plus mileage.
Okay.
They break it down into ALS 1 and ALS 2, and that's insurance talk. Basically, it's how much advanced care do I do.
Right.
If this is starting an IV and using a cardiac monitor, maybe giving one drug, that's an ALS 1. ALS 2 is where I've got that more critical stuff where I'm doing a lot more procedures, a lot more medications and things like that. And ALS 1 pays me $850 plus loaded mileage. ALS 2 pays me $1,050 plus loaded mileage.
Not a big jump there, but
Well,
I mean, $300
No.
more for the criticals anyway, as an aside,
Yeah.
but
well, look at it this way, though. We did a study here, and from January 1st into April, I've missed 100 runs due to already being out on EMS calls.
okay.
So now if you take that 100 runs and you multiply that to those basic
Those numbers.
650,
Yeah.
that's $65,000.
Yeah. On
That
the
I've
low
missed
end.
out.
Yeah.
I've missed out on because I've already been out on a run.
Right.
So I wholeheartedly believe that if I can get the money in here to pay people to staff the station to take these runs, then I can get number 3 and number 4 person so that they will be able to take either A, that second run, or B, that fire truck in the case of need.
Okay. So what I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm kind of hearing is if the taxes, get approved or whatever for current day, would allow you to staff properly, and that staffing properly would, in many ways, pay for itself because you could do the runs that are
Right.
called in.
If I don't remember where I put my paper, but I started figuring this stuff out. To come up to to today's pay scale at $16.50 an hour for the basic EMT, that would increase my wages here from this $201,000 to like $290,000. Now, I'm also going to kind of sway that just a little bit. I've been saying that that's 2 basic EMTs. I have a decent number of advanced EMTs, which I paid $1 an hour more,
Right.
and paramedics $2 above a basic an hour, because they can provide that care.
Right.
I'd like to stretch that out a little bit more, but for round numbers, let's just say that it would take me $300,000 to pay 2 people a competitive wage to be able to staff that truck. All right. So now you take the $65,000 for 1 quarter. In the end, multiply that by 3. So there's $180,000 I could pay for at least another person there,
Right.
just off the insurance. But then also, because they're dual carded, my plan, and I'd like to look into this, I'd like to pay some of those out of the fire side too.
Right.
All right. But I've got to make sure that budget is there too.
Yeah.
I really think I can do it. Might have to shift a few things around,
Right.
but it is, in my mind, totally feasible.
Okay.
It's just a matter of I've got to get traction on getting these things updated.
Right.
Now, the bad side also, again, I understand the county just did their tax increase late last year, and
Right.
some of the folks down in Bearfield Township and down in Corning and things like that, they had a significant hit. And I get that, and then here's this guy coming looking for more taxes. I get that 100%. I don't want to pay anything more than I have to myself.
Right.
But I'm also willing to pay for a program that we absolutely need. Our generation is getting older and older. Our residents are getting older and older, and they need that EMS care. Some of these younger folks that are moving in, we need the fire coverage as well.
Right.
We've got some other things coming down the pipeline that, with new construction and things like that in the area, that definitely need some fire coverage.
Right.
So, all the way around, I think it's warranted.
Now, would let's say this gets voted for and passes, would this also allow you to expand your coverage?
The coverage area, that's all done by contract. That's a feeling upon the different townships on how they want to approach it, how they want to go with it. You can see on there, I've got Pleasant Township.
Yeah.
Pleasant Township, I've been going to the meetings, I've been talking to them, and I know Chief Fain from New Lex has been going down to the meetings too. Pleasant, just like Clayton, expands, or let me restate that. Pleasant, just like Clayton Township, shares their contract. So they're split fire-wise between Corning and New Lex.
Right.
Their EMS, I get 75%, New Lex gets 25%. So
Right.
they've split their EMS. So in reality, and you can see their taxes are 2014. That's my newest ones,
I see that.
and that's 10 years old.
Ideally,
So-
how often should that be updated, do you think?
That's a tough question. And I know you can't play the economy as to know exactly what it's doing. However, I would say it would be good to look at doing a replacement about every 10 years.
That seems reasonable.
That's a decent amount of time to look and see what the economy is going to do and plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking about how to go about this. And the easiest I can look at on there is Harrison Township, simply for the fact that they have 3 1-mil levies.
Right.
Is this going to be a matter of whether I take each one of those levies and say, okay, over the span of 9 years, hypothetically, we take one of those levies and update it to what the standards are at that time, the land values at that time.
Right.
That's one method to go about it. Or do we say we take 1 mil levy of EMS and 1 mil levy of fire, and we combine them into one levy, a new levy, and say, you know what, let's work with the citizens, let's back it down to 1.5. I'm still going to get more money because of the land value,
Right.
but I'm also trying to work with the citizens too. I'm not trying to gouge anybody.
Right.
But I also realize that in working with them, I've got to look ahead and see that very question you just mentioned. How soon do you look to replace things?
Yeah.
You know, if I cut it back to that 1.5, it may be a little bit sooner that we try to replace it.
Yeah, that question I wouldn't be curious of it unless I've seen things from 45 years ago, 1976,
Right.
on multiple occasions.
Correct. And you can see the different mil values there. Half mil,
Right.
0.7 mil, things like that. Now, we also, you see York Township on there.
Mm-hmm.
York Township failed their levy a couple years ago.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That means they don't have fire monies right now. They're not collecting a fire tax.
Does it mean there's no fire department? What does that mean exactly?
There's no fire department over there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've been covering that in good faith because I have been working with them.
I just want to be clear. When you say you cover them in good faith, does that mean that there's no money coming in to cover that, right?
When I came here, there was no money because that levy had failed.
Right. And it's still that way.
And it's still that way.
Okay.
I've been working with Chief Finley out of M&M Fire.
Mm-hmm.
And we also sat down with the county auditor. And we also sat down with the citizens over in Beavertown.
Okay.
And we had an open forum meeting. And amongst the three of us, explained our positions. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
We need this. This is the first time it had failed. This past
How recent
year.
was that? 2023? Is that when it failed?
Yes.
Huh.
That's when I came in, and that's when we got that chart and things like that.
Right.
At that time, it had failed.
Now, what do you suppose was a big contributor of why it failed?
They said it only failed by like 5 votes.
Yeah.
So now whether that means that a lot of your older folks either A, couldn't get out to vote, or B, some of those folks had passed, C, maybe some of your younger members weren't getting out to vote, or a lot of the younger folks.
I think what you're saying is all that is probably a contributor, along with
Correct.
not understanding
Why?
your position.
Right.
Because coming in here, I'll be honest with you, of everybody I'm talking to, I'm tired of paying.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
When you look at the government, it's difficult to look at it in a good light.
Yes, it is.
But it makes it a lot easier if you just keep your focus local, which I've been trying to do, because things can get overwhelming if you pay too much attention.
Right.
But sitting down with you and having this conversation opens me up to understanding the point of what you're trying to do. And you're just trying to staff this place so that you can provide a faster service to somebody that is in need. Because it isn't like you're going out and delivering pizzas or tying someone's shoes. You're going places because it needs to happen. It needs to go.
Right.
It needs, yeah. And by shaving time down from 15 minutes to 5 because someone's here, yeah, you can help grandma get from the upstairs to the downstairs rather quickly before you got no more grandma or whatever it may be in your situation.
Correct.
And again, like you said before, our community here, the average age in Crooksville is right in the mid-40s. And it's not getting younger quickly.
That's when your heart disease and stuff starts to
Right. Everything starts
to
going
develop in
down
your
quickly.
body.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So those people with chest pain, those people with the shortness of breath, the
Right.
COPD, the emphysema, they need somebody now.
How many fire trucks do you got there now?
Currently, we have 2 engines. One also serves as our rescue truck. We have a tanker truck. I have currently 2 brush trucks and 2 ambulances.
What's a brush truck for the unfamiliar?
The brush truck, ours are F-350s. We put a skid unit. It's a small pump and a small tank and things like that. It's something that can go off-road, something that can go up through the woods for woods fires. I'm wanting to keep both of them. One, I want to be able to go out and start an operation. My second brush truck, currently it is able to be used to go to and from school and things like that. And I say that loose but tight. It's approved things. For example, right now I have 2 firefighter in training folks.
Yeah.
They're going to school. So they.
Oh, okay. So when you say school, I'm thinking you're going to Crooksville school for some reason.
No.
Okay.
Well, unless it's Fire Prevention Week, which is coming up.
Right.
But no, I've got 2 folks that are in fire school right now, learning to be firefighters, and they're authorized to take that truck on Sundays to their class.
Okay.
And back. The other option that we use it for is to be able to do any kind of emergency running around that we have to. Somebody has to go pick up supplies somewhere or something like that.
Okay.
It is department approved stuff. It's not to be out joyriding or anything like that by any means. But the other thing I'm trying to keep it for is I want it to be able to pull the side-by-side that we have to be able to go through the woods and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't want somebody hitching up and trying to run the first brush truck emergency status with a trailer behind them. That's not safe.
What are some things you use the side-by-side for, just so that it's out there?
The side-by-side, a lot of times, perfect example. 2.5 months ago, was it August, I think it was? It was on a Sunday. It was a nice hot day. We got a call for a woods fire down below Family Dollar just by 6 Mile Turn.
Again, this is during the drought.
During the drought. One of the trees had fallen, knocked the power lines to where they shorted out, and ended up starting a fire on the ground. So that fire then, through all the leaves and everything, spread up and through and followed the contour of the land, was spreading towards the east due to the winds and things also.
Right.
The side-by-side and our brush truck were able to get up around through a farmer's field. We ended up having to cut the fence, but we were able to get into the woods on one of the trails that they had through there to get water on the fire faster.
Okay.
So we can take it. We can also transport people up there, maybe drinking water, tools, anything that crews that are already up there may need.
Right. Okay.
So,
because I wasn't sure what you used the side-by-side for either, so.
That's a lot of it. Just being able to get into those off-road places and things.
Right.
Search and rescue is another one. We do some search and rescue down through some of the Perry State Forest areas.
Oh, okay.
There's times that we may be called down to Shawnee and New Straitsville to help out with a big area search for lost hikers. Those come in handy.
All right, so this here helps pay for both the EMS and fire side, right?
Correct. Whether it be maintenance, whether it be fuel, whether it be salaries,
complete operations, really.
Everything.
Right. Now, where does this help your EMS side? Or does it? I don't know.
The biggest thing is going to be salaries.
Really?
That's my
Okay.
number one goal, is to get them to a competitive wage.
That way you can keep them here as opposed to them leaving and we have an abandoned town of what used to be.
I have 3 that are just starting. They just interviewed, and as a matter of fact, my third one is going to be voted on the 7th at the council meeting. So we'll get him started as well. I forget exactly where I was going with that, but
Well, I have a
that's
follow-
my big thing is the wages.
Yeah. Okay, let's say someone's interested in being a volunteer or someone's interested in coming here from another location. What is that process? They show up here, they knock on your door, they fill, why don't walk us through before they, because I know they go to council, but that's not step one, so start beginning there.
They can either call, show up, or somehow get a message to me, and I can either give them a physical copy of an application, or I can email it to them, and they can fill that out. When I do that also, I will end up telling them that we need a background check, a BCI check. Don't want anybody with any felonies and things like that. So if I tell them they can go to the sheriff's office and get their background check, have it sent here, that kind of shortens up the time frame. I do have a packet of tax paperwork. So for workman's comp, for state taxes, federal taxes, all that kind of stuff, I also can give them a copy of that.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it to where they can come back in the next time and have all their paperwork and stuff ready.
Okay.
So they can turn it in here.
Mm-hmm.
The next step, and I sit down and I talk to them, and we'll interview them. And I've had a couple of the folks that are on duty or something like that, if I've had them available, because they're the ones working with these folks,
Right.
the new applicants. They'll sit and talk to them, and what do y'all think? We do a little bit more digging down into somebody, just like any other employer is going to do. You look at your Facebook, you look at your social medias and things like that. You maybe call and talk to a couple other employers and see, what's going on there. Those typical questions: would you rehire them?
Right.
Or any of that kind of stuff. I'll say one of our ladies right now, she's working for CAS, Community Ambulance, but she wants a little bit different experience too.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing a lot of stuff in Zanesville, you have shorter transport times and things like that in the Zanesville area, as compared to us going down to Corning.
Right.
All right, and we do that on a regular basis. We're down there at least 2 to 4 times a week, taking Corning runs. We're their backup. So I mean, and that presents you with a whole different set of experience, EMS wise, in transporting somebody that long.
Right.
So that some people come out just to get some of that different experience.
Okay.
So, but when they apply, we'll sit down and we'll talk to them, go through all that kind of stuff, and then we ask that they come in on a meeting night for the county, or not the county, I'm sorry, for council.
Mm-hmm.
They do a little meet and greet and talk to council for a little bit and answer any kind of questions, kind of get a feel for who they are. And then at the next formal meeting for council, they will be voted on.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and a lot of that's based on, it's just a kind of a formality for
Right.
the most part.
Well,
But
obviously council wants to know because
Sure.
they represent
want-
the people of their village or whatever.
They want to know who's working for them.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I get
working
that.
for 'em. So based off experience and personality types and
Yep.
all the things that go into who you are.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So
Um,
it's not a difficult one. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. In a case of my next applicant, it happened to be the 5th Monday of the month, which they don't have a meeting.
Right.
So that took an extra week in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Especially when you got to wait for the approval or vote, whether that's another
yeah.
week on top of that week.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything we haven't covered when it comes to what you're not asking for, like more money per se? It's just an updated amount of money, or is it more money?
It will end up being more money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking to increase the millage
Yeah.
or anything like that. I'm asking to come up to today's land values versus when those levies were initiated.
Right.
So that's
It's just updating the cost of the.
yeah.
So it might be more dollars and cents, but as compared to, right, it's
Right.
roughly about what was anyway.
And we can look and we can say, they lasted for a long, long time
Yeah.
on these levies. So one of the things that occurred within this last 30 years is the fact that we started doing a lot more billing for EMS. We came into this thing called soft billing,
Mm-hmm.
in which case we started recouping EMS monies. Well, that was a means of not having to replace taxes at that time and giving us more money
Right.
to be able to fund the operating costs. We're just at a point now between that billing and the tax levies, the cost of everything has gone to the point where we're at the end of that rope.
Right. And so if this doesn't pass, and I'm sure,
If it doesn't pass,
yeah, but if it doesn't pass, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at people staying at the same wage.
Mm-hmm.
If they still choose to continue to work here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at even harder times. I'm looking at questionable whether I can keep people on the trucks or not.
What's the average amount of time you have people that are here? Not volunteers, the people who are
the
paid.
paid? For the last couple months, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were my tough days. This month, this is the first month it's been like this. I'm down to about 3 days a week that I'm covered. So,
I was referring to their experience, like
experience?
Yeah.
Sorry.
of the people who work and get paid to work here, right? Some has been here for 10 years plus, some's been here for 30 days. Is there like an average overall? Any idea? I don't know how many people are even working here.
On my roster, I've got probably about 15 to 20 folks that are actually putting in schedules and putting in time. We're talking about 8
Okay.
to 10 maybe.
So of those 8, how
So-
much experience do they have, you think?
Aaron and I have got a good bit.
I
Morgan's
think
been around for a little
you
bit.
said you've been with Lancaster 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So
been
you
medic for 30 years.
yeah.
But then I've also got 2 of my more common folks that are in at least 2 days a week here. They're a year and a half.
Oh yeah.
I was actually their basic instructor
Oh okay.
and the advanced instructor. So they're like my kids.
Yeah, oh, I would imagine. Yeah.
But yeah,
And how much coverage do you have now with, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with fire and then separately EMS?
well, with the EMS, we're looking at about 3 days a week, 24/7 right now.
Okay.
And that's, again, because of the pay scale, because of
And on the fire side, what do you cover there?
fire side, it's all volunteer.
The whole thing's volunteer?
The whole thing is volunteer.
And will this allow you to pay a few
That's my goal.
to fully staff 24 hours, 7 days, or what are you trying to do with this?
My goal over the next 5 years is to get to where I can put 2 primary EMS folks and 2 dual carded folks
Right.
in station 24/7.
I would imagine the EMS is
EMS
more
is
active.
primary.
Right, more active.
Right.
Yeah.
We do a lot more EMS. In looking at, off the top of my head, we were just shy of 400. Is it 400? No. I'll get with you and let you know the fire runs, because they're in a log in the office here. And we were 900 EMS runs, something like that. You can see on the side there, for your years, here was your average run volumes for fire versus EMS.
Okay. Okay, this is up to May. Then okay, then it's 4 year.
Correct. We're
Well,
just
that
shy of-
really jumps strange.
In 2021, you can see that the numbers are different,
Yeah.
and that's because that's the year they went to the current reporting program.
Okay, so
and I
different.
don't know if they had a different program or if they were still doing paper reporting before that.
Okay, so this
One of the
may not
two.
be accurate on the 2020.
On the 2020, yeah, that's when they came to this new reporting program.
Okay.
And we've
So
been
it could be a
using
partial
since.
year count then.
Partial count.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because that would make sense. Because when and I'll just read this for anybody who doesn't want to. So in 2020, fire call volume, and this number does seem to be not accurate, but it shows 96.
Right.
But all the other years seems to be where things would fall into like what normal would be. And I would call this normal for these years. So 2021 is 232 calls for fire. 2022 is 250 calls. And 2023 is 259 calls. 2024, January to May, I assume covering also May, 112.
I think it was.
Then on the EMS side, the 2020 is 641, which I think is probably not an accurate number, respectively. I mean, because we don't
Right.
know. And then 2021 is 1,599 calls. So you can see how that changes in number, almost 1,000 more. So 2022, it goes from, 2021, 1,599 to 2022, 1,611. 2023, 1,388 calls to EMS, and 2024, January to May, 425 calls, which seems a little bit low, which is probably more good than bad. You don't want high numbers. But yeah, that's interesting. All right.
So we put some other stats on there too, understanding that back in the day, mid 80s, a fire truck, $100,000, whatever the cost was, depending on whether you're getting a tank or a ladder truck or a regular fire truck. Nowadays, the cost of a regular engine, a straight out engine, not a ladder truck, not a tanker truck or any of that kind of stuff, without any of the bells and whistles, without all the hoopla, a basic model, you're pushing over $1 million for a fire truck.
For anybody who doesn't know, okay, you said fire truck.
For a fire truck.
Because when you say engine, that's almost like an inside term that not everybody would understand, so I just want to make sure.
That's the common engine that you see us out in to take a fire run.
And that's with or without a ladder?
That's without the ladder.
Without the ladder.
Our ladder truck
You're talking about just a fire truck.
Yep.
Going to throw water on something.
Yep.
It's $1 million plus.
We have ladder trucks out of Newton Township, and we have ladder trucks out of New Lex, depending on where the fire is.
Yeah.
But when you start pricing a ladder truck itself, you're talking probably $750,000. Or I'm sorry, 750. I'm gonna have to edit that because that's even off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my numbers right.
Yeah.
If you're pushing $1 million for an engine,
Right.
triple and quadruple that for
Just
ladder
to have
trucks
the
and things
ladder?
like that. Well, because you've got ladders, you've got the stabilizers that come out.
Oh, that's right.
Because
Those things.
You've got to raise the ladder up with or without a pump. You've got the waterway that if you're going to plumb it, that has to be telescopic piping. You've got a lot more electronics.
That hooks right to the ladder, though, right? Where it telescopes along with the ladder, right?
Correct.
So you're talking $2 or $3 million probably for one of those.
You're talking up there, yeah.
Hate to even ask, but are they feasible if you were to buy one used?
You can, but you're still paying a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
A whole lot of money.
And it's hard to spend $1.5 million, a half price for a truck that you don't know the condition or the history of, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Somewhat.
Because that's also what happens when you buy a used car. You don't know the history of it. And
exactly.
It might be a good deal, but it may not be in 30 days when you...
And understanding also that the average lifespan of an engine is 20 years. My older of the two out there is a 1999.
Yeah. So you're going to burn in... Now, how are those paid for, by the way, if you needed to replace an entire engine there? So is that like through a grant, or is that through some sort of budgeting through county, city?
Yes, yes, and yes.
You
can get grants to pay for some of it. You can get bonds to pay for some of it. You can take out loans. You can... that is one of my projects here. I'm in Fire Officer 3 and 4 class, and this is what I've come up with. This is my project.
This is like a proposed budget.
It's also here.
Is this like a proposed budget you're trying to go with?
Correct.
And that's if this passes, right?
No, this is what we have current.
Current. Okay.
This is what we have current. Now, in taking a look at this, you will see our utilities, and I've got them broke down. How much comes out of the fire side, how much comes out of the EMS side. All right. And building payments. Half comes out of the fire, half comes out of EMS. Fire alarm system testing, sprinkler system testing, hose testing that we just did cost me $3,000.
Are these yearly numbers?
Correct.
Right, okay.
So, and this, I've worked with Courtney, our fiscal officer, a lot to look at some of these. And I've put a few more things in here that we really need. So active 911, for example, that's how we get our dispatches over our phone to tell us that, hey, there's an emergency. They take $405, totaling $810 per year for that subscription. Med accounts, this is our EMS billing. We don't pay anything for that because they take a percentage of however much monthly billing there was.
Okay.
And that's a contract thing too.
Okay.
So I don't even see that. That's taken out before I get our payments from insurance. Somebody's got to take out the trash. There's $300 a year from fire, $300 a year from EMS.
Oh, I see.
To help cover that.
Now, what is the Ohio State Firefighters Association? What's that?
Where are you seeing that at?
Right here.
That is an association. kind of like a, I don't want to say it.
It's almost like a BBB thing to where, you comply with whatever Ohio State, or is that something, or what? I don't know what that is.
It's geared more towards an insurance plan,
Okay.
so to speak. If I didn't come home, we pay for our members into this fund. God forbid I didn't come home, then this state fund is going to help pay for stuff for my family.
So
whether it
like
be for
fallen
services
firefighters funded almost in a way.
at a state level.
Just doesn't seem like very much money coming out of the fire department though. That's all. Which
No,
is
but
probably a
when
good thing.
you-
It brings a whole lot of people getting.
When you multiply by all the
Getting hurt.
departments around,
Yeah.
and it also is based on how many people you have on your roster.
Seems like a risk. Okay. So
Right.
Crooksville will be like a lower risk as compared to a big city.
Because we don't have a whole lot of people, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Okay, yeah, vehicle insurance obviously will be a ton of money.
So now part of my next part of my project is to take these numbers, and I've got to, according to the directions of my program, increase it by 3% for your salaries and things like that. So I'm learning how to make that projection for 2025, 2026, 2027.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to take a hard look at a lot of this stuff and what we truly pay out. Now, I will also tell you that on the back side of here, and you can see it on the front side, I've started, these are the vehicle numbers and how much we put into them, each one of them.
I almost want to ask how that money is spent, but I understand it costs money to hire people who know what they're
Yeah.
doing to work on your truck.
Well,
But my goodness, that's just a lot of money.
where's right there?
I seen that. I see that at my job. I know the people who, yeah,
$195 an hour for a fire truck mechanic.
yeah.
So we,
And that's not even high, by the way.
No.
That's average because
No.
I see that. Yeah, I know.
now we are trying to use folks within reason. We're trying to keep some cost effectiveness on it as best we can. You know, when you start getting into a lot of the ambulance electrical systems, we had problems with 212 this year, and that's why its cost was so high. We had to eliminate a bunch of stuff off the electrical side of things and go back to the old manual push buttons. It had an electronic screen that keeled over on us, and I said, screw it, go back to the electrical, push a button, turn all my lights on.
Right.
I'll take that any day. A lot less moving parts.
I was going to say, yeah, it'd be less distracting. One button versus many.
Yep. The other thing, I put $40,000 into both of my engines and my tanker. That's a huge month. All right. So keep in mind, we don't always pay that much every year. All right. I did a bunch of maintenance on it. The best I can make it for the guys to go down the road. You know, I don't want to take a chance on something going wrong and somebody getting in an accident or something like that at our cost. You know, it's better to prevent that kind of thing.
I would,
So-
yeah, I would assume so.
Between that kind of cost and because of the $5,000 that Morgan County and specific York Township, because of their failed levies, that's about half of our shortfall. And I say it that way because when you look at the bottom right here, so these two columns, this is my EMS, this is my fire, come down to, I spend on the average, to include everything, $390,000 a year for, I'm sorry, I spend $373,000 a year at current pay scale for all of my stuff to do with EMS. Right now it's $204,000 a year for all of my stuff to deal with fire.
Right.
Income with my tax levies and my insurance
At current numbers. Right.
is $390,000, which gives me a $16,000 buffer, which is not hardly anything.
That could change in one day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so to the fire side, I get $136,000, which makes me $68,000 in the hole.
Right.
Now let's just say $35,000 of that $40,000. We'll put $5,000. Let's go 10,000.
Yeah.
10,000 in maintenance of my big trucks. That would explain some of that shortfall.
Mm-hmm.
If I only had to put 10,000 in instead of the 40,000,
Right.
then that would have been 38.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to look at it some that way. The $5,000 from York Township,
Mm-hmm.
that would have reduced that shortfall more.
So when you drive it into the, well, I don't word it that way. When you fall into the negative, how do you make up for that?
That's a good question. That's stuff that has to come from the fiscal officer and things like that. Now, I will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I just talked to her the other day. I know that I'm in the black
Yeah.
currently. So I'm not sure how I ended up here to be in the negative, but she still has me in the black.
Yeah.
All right, and it's something I try to pay attention to very closely.
Mm-hmm.
Being fiscally responsible for all this stuff is a huge thing. So I will say that something is
How recent were you aware of that?
of that.
Yeah. Being down $68,000.
I just came out to that this past week
Really?
because I'm working on this project currently in my school.
Hmm.
Something's not accurate on my form there, and I've got to figure out where the miss is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're not truly in the red right now. I just want to make sure that's clear too.
Right. But now the question marks there, are they because there's no insurance, or is it because the malpractice, or is it because you just don't know what those numbers are?
I don't know what those numbers are.
Is it because
And
you're
I-
switching insurance companies, or is it because you just not aware of what the cost is yet?
I don't know what the cost is,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what all they cover. And I specifically looked at malpractice there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we pay McBain Insurance for our vehicles and all that kind of stuff, so it's a large package
Mm-hmm.
that we've got to go through that data to make sure and see exactly what all is covered.
Right.
That's why I have the question marks there.
Okay.
I don't know the full details to that yet.
All right, so let's kind of summarize, not so much that, but these here,
Okay?
so that people can best understand what they're voting for. So let's really focus on what you're asking people to vote for, whether or not they believe in the same thing what you believe. Okay, so since we're in Harrison Township now,
Okay.
is it okay we just kind of focus
Sure.
on that?
Absolutely.
And for anybody else who's outside of Harrison Township that is in these other areas, I'll post this on the screen so people can see it as well. So for Harrison Township, 1984, what does that 1 represent? Is that like the same thing as a .1?
That's my millage.
So it's 1
So
millage?
that is 1 mil.
Okay.
So
Okay.
your house in 1984 was $150,000.
Yeah.
You were paying what's half of 35? 17.
Yeah.
35 and 17.
So that'd be
So 52
$50. And 1984 money.
in 1984 money.
And so to bring that today is all you're asking for, really, is to bring it to today's
Bring it to
numbers.
today's numbers.
And what would today's numbers be for that $52 for a $150,000 house from 1984, roughly?
Well, for that, let's say that same house today appraises for 300,000,
Yeah, yeah,
hypothetically.
yeah.
Okay. So your 35 times 3,
So the 35 stays the same.
35 stays the same.
Okay,
It's the land value that has increased,
right.
the property value.
Okay. Okay, so that makes sense. So if you have a $300,000 house or whatever, then that 35 would multiply by 3.
Right.
Then you have whatever, what's that, like $905?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and that's per year,
And that's for 1 mil.
per 1 mil.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I say it that way. I try to stress that 1 mil because there's other places out there that have like 2 mil levies or 4 mil levies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and even other folks outside of our direct area, I can also tell you that I know Hopewell Township has levies this year, and who was it? There was somebody else in our chiefs meeting we had at the county the other night. There were like three different townships that had levies. And I know that Chief Fain and Chief Emmert and I got to sit and talk for a little bit, and we're going to share information and try to help each other out
Right.
with this stuff.
Okay. So that the 1984 1 mil EMS. Actually, these numbers are relatively the same. And then your fire side from. Now, why is fire listed on there twice from 1984 and 1992?
Because they have two different levies.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that might be the case there, where we say, okay, you know what, this year, let's update the EMS levy. And then we'll say 2 years, I don't know. It would be wonderful if I could turn and say, let's update one of your fire and your EMS.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I know people are taxed to death.
Yeah.
If I can get the EMS stuff primarily first, and then in 3 years down the road, let's hit one of the fires, I can take my baby steps.
Right. And the numbers on the right side over here, we're under renewal and replacement. This is what things are currently sitting at, and this is what, if passed, or is that what that is?
This is what Crooksville gets based off of that 71%.
Mm-hmm.
So township renewal is at the 1 mil levy, produces $46,200.
And that money goes to.
I get 71% of it.
Okay.
If that township levy replaced, it would produce $83,200.
Okay.
In which case I get 71%, producing $59,072.
Okay.
Accident with injuries. That's Crooksville going out there. 669, and
You got to run.
that's one of ours, yeah.
All right. All right. We'll wrap it up from here.
So
Yeah. Well, if you guys have any questions, you can contact the Crooksville Fire Chief here, Chief Wallace,
I'm willing to sit down with anybody who wants to come in, and we'll sit and talk the numbers.
and go from there. Thanks for watching.
All right.
All right. Good deal.
Hopefully that didn't sound too crazy.
I'm hoping it wasn't too long-winded or nothing, but people's attention can be.